Okay.
Okay, recording has started.
Okay, let's okay, so it's Roberto and I will let me share my screen. Roberto and I take turns to run this call. Can someone post the link to the minutes to the site, the chat? Let me share my screen. So it's for today. Please, add your name to the contributors. Today, we'll discuss the platform release, and also if we have time, we can visit the program plan. So it's the platform release. The first thing is kind of from last week's conversation. I took to do to make a proposal about the compatible implementation. How come? Interesting. With my proposal. Oh, this is directly coming here. Sorry. That's in my.
Emily, you can right click and open in a new tab.
Yeah, I think I go to the wrong link.
Open link all the way further down. Yeah.
Yeah, I think I got the wrong link. So this is the technical discussion minutes. So what I really need is about the proposal. Oh, okay. That's the proposal is in the in the MicroProfile. Oh, sorry about that. So the compatible implementation. Oh, okay. Compatible.
Are there minutes that we should be writing our attendance in?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, it's on the chat.
Oh, I'm sorry. I joined after. I wish that chat was a little more persistent.
There you go.
Thank you so much.
So yeah, thank you. So here so basically is right now, and because the CDI and also it's because the current Jakarta E9 hasn't got like all the TCKs split up, and there's a kind of difficulties for some runtime to certify the whole Jakarta EE9. So it's prior to the Jakarta E10, we could come up with two different flavor of the compatible certification. One is the kind of directly certified against Jakarta EE, like this is 4 specifications, like including the MicroProfile, this 8 TCK implementations. So this is kind of the full certification. The other like flavor is the MicroProfile only MicroProfile level compatible certification. So basically for this one, we just need to certify against these 8 MicroProfile specifications. And for the Jakarta EE10 and beyond, and we just restream just to the full compatible certification instead of 2 different categories. So instead of debating what is compatible certification implementation, we just come up with 2 different categories. so that like a different runtime can place in a different category. In this way, like the end user have clear view about the runtime they use, have kind of the claim what kind of levels, certification, etc. So are there any comments?
Yep.
Yeah, just a question. Do we have any runtime which is MicroProfile only?
Quarkus.
Quarkus is not planning to be kind of full at some point.
We're not sure, but at this point, there are no plans for it now.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah, I doubt Quarkus will ever even pass the web profile, but I'm not sure.
Is that full really explicitly required? Because if you say as a runtime, we are MicroProfile compliant, and then which means those 8, and you also indicate that you are Jakarta EE compliant, web or full or whatever, that implicitly implies that you pass all those other TCKs.
That's
Yeah.
my exact perspective as well.
Yep, mine too, Rudy. The only thing, they don't even have to be EE platform or web profile compliant. An implementation could just be compatible with these 4 Jakarta EE specifications.
But I think for the moment, everyone is having at least the web one and not the individual ones, because you cannot run the individual ones as we discussed earlier. But yes.
Why
But I
not?
think, sorry.
I'm sorry, Rudy, I didn't understand that, because all 4 of these have separate TCKs.
Yeah, but the CDI one is including more than purely the CDI one, as we have, as I remember from discussions, you have the EL expression, which is linked in, and a few EGB ones. So if you pass the CDI one, then you probably have more than just those 4.
Okay, that's fair. Yes,
But
you
that's-
probably do, but
But that's sort of a different argument, right? It's still a
Yep.
separate TCK. The TCK has dependencies, right? I mean, that.
But yeah, but my point, it is easier to say an implementation is web profile compliant, and then to say, oh, we have MicroProfile and those 4 others also. So it's just
Right, but-
easier. But okay, if there is a implementation that says we've passed those 4 specific ones of Jakarta, then okay, that's fine for me. But I guess there will no case like that in the near future. But
So I actually think that Rudy even got a better point, because we are explicitly excluding AGB and expression language on the platform level in platform POM.
So then
So
we
we
should
are
be
not
trying to get a profile created from a CDI or whatever has that dependency that
Yeah,
doesn't
so-
include that.
Yeah, for the Jakarta E10, hopefully we are trying to address that. So it's I think it's for now, and if we come up with these 2 different levels of certification, at least we can put the runtime in a different bucket. So it's
Yeah,
a
but
that's
I think,
my-
yeah, I
but
think,
Emily,
yeah,
yeah,
Go ahead.
there's still the question though. I mean, you're kind of indicating that, okay, we need these 2 levels of certification. I think the question that Rudy brought up and David and I kind of went along with is, why do we need 2? But if we just go with MicroProfile compatible implementation, then isn't that sufficient?
because people can also specify that they are Jakarta EE certified. So
Exactly.
that accomplishes it.
So are you like suggesting the MicroProfile compatible certification just including this 8?
Yes.
And ignore the Jakarta ones.
Correct. Because
The only thing,
Jakarta certificate. Hold on, let me finish. Just because That's all because what it means to be Jakarta certified is already handled, and the majority of the implementations do implement some form of Jakarta certification. So it's,
The only
you know what I mean? It's already.
So I guess I would argue that if you're going to say CDI, the CDI team should define what that means. And right now, what their definition is the TCK. So I think we sort of we don't disallow people to say, well, I took a compatible implementation and I am dependent on that compatible implementation. So I think that's allowed. But for somebody who creates a new implementation, if they don't pass that TCK, because it's a new implementation, I don't know how it can credibly say that it's CDI compliant.
Yeah, I
Right, but we're
agree. I
not-
think that
But
for
it wouldn't be because it just says MicroProfile compliant.
Yeah, but to what level?
No,
But
yeah.
MicroProfile says all the language. Are you going to remove CDI from the MicroProfile core?
That's a very good yeah, that's a very good point, Ed. So in the MicroProfile 1.0, like we don't like if we ignore the Jakarta side, so everybody can say I certify against the MicroProfile, because in MicroProfile 1.0 we package CDI, JAX-RS, and JSON-P, for example, like you have to certify against the Jakarta. Now it's kind of, if we just saying, okay, in the MicroProfile 4.1, you don't need to certify against the Jakarta. You just need to certify against the 8 specifications. However, MicroProfile include this like 4 specifications, like CDI, JAX-RS, and JSON-B and JSON-P.
Well, to be fair, and to be completely pure, there is no CDI TCK that anyone passes for the MicroProfile definition that we do for CDI, because there is no TCK that removes expression languages, AJBs, or anything else. So in a sense, and to be completely pure, I will say that no one is passing the CDI TCK right now, because the definition that we put for the CDI doesn't even exist. There is no TCK to test against that. Even if you test against full, it's not completely pure, because as for instance, like Martin was saying, we just remove stuff from our parent POM that CDI includes, right?
But the thing is that this passed extra stuff, because we removed something from full.
Yes, but I mean, removing stuff, it might mean that it may stop working. So it's not a completely pure TCK pass, in my opinion. If we want to make it completely pure, completely strict, right? The TCK that you're passing is not the one that we're specifying to pass on the MicroProfile specification.
Because we are only using parts of CDI within MicroProfile.
Exactly.
And Emily, you're correct that the MicroProfile 1 was only the Jakarta one, but I guess we are now talking about MicroProfile 4 certification, not a version that can be certified. Only MicroProfile 4 can be certified in the way that we are now discussing, not a random version number.
However, I think is even though we remove we do a partial CDI. However, if you pass the full CDI, we haven't introduced any additional stuff. And if we pass the full CDI, I think that's kind of, you could take the box.
Yeah, but if you look into CDI, there are 2 separate CDI TCKs, right? There is CDI for Java SE, and there is CDI for Java EE, right? And you either pass one or the other, or you can pass both, right? There is no CDI for MicroProfile. We either say that you pass CDI for Java SE or CDI for Java EE, because the definition that we set for CDI and MicroProfile, when we're removing stuff like the AJB integration, expressing language, conversation scope, there is no TCK to test against those things, right? So
But,
let's just say, so we're talking about portability, right? So
yeah,
even though we say that conversation scope is not required on MicroProfile, for instance, a server that's implementing both Jakarta and CDI can use conversation scope, no problem. But if you move to a MicroProfile compliant only server, then conversation scope is not going to work, right? So there is no portability over there, right? Because what you tested was not the CDI for MicroProfile, was CDI for Jakarta.
but we are not testing against the portable aspect for the CDI. Surely, if you use the Yale and Yale is not mandated by MicroProfile, yeah,
Well, when we're
that's
talking
why it
about being
doesn't
compatible
follow.
implementation, is not also to say that we have compatible runtimes where you can just switch your application from compatible runtime from the other and the others, and we guarantee that they're going to work the same way.
What about in this way for this one? What about JAX-RS? JAX-RS, we haven't removed anything.
Well, in JAX-RS, yes, I'll expect that will work. What I'm trying to say over here, and I'm not sure if I'm making myself clear, if my message passing okay, is that there is no TCK that complies with the specification that we made for CDI in MicroProfile. There's either CDI for Java SE, and there's either CDI for Jakarta E. There is no CDI for MicroProfile.
Just hang on a second. Just clarification question. So in Jakarta, we have platform tests, TCKs, and standalone TCKs, right? And their purpose of standalone TCKs is actually testing the spec only without all the platform stuff, right? So I guess that if CDI has standalone TCKs, and must have, right? This test must not include any type of things related to the platform, like EGBs, whatever else mentioned there, right? And it must be, it's my fault, correct me if I'm wrong, it must be suitable for implementations like MicroProfile implementation. So just testing.
That is correct. The point is we made like a sub-specification on CDI where we just remove it randomly. I wouldn't say randomly stuff, but we removed things in a way that they are not like TCK independent, right? It's kind of like you're going to JDK and saying, hey, now you have to support the JDK version that doesn't have any Java long string. Right? Or something like that.
I think the simple statement that you're making, Roberto, is the MicroProfile effectively created a profile of CDI that's smaller than the standalone TCK.
Exactly, but there is no TCK that tests against the profile that we created.
Right. So
but I think
for us to make that happen, we would have to come up with our own list of tests that have to be passed.
The CDI team needs to do that.
Exactly.
You can suggest it. We can absolutely suggest it, yes.
So that's what our CDI Lite is trying to do at the moment. However, I think it's kind of, if we use this argument as saying, okay, we don't have a minimum TCK to certify against the minimum requirement for MicroProfile. However, MicroProfile still include this CDI, JAX-RS, and etc. We just, I don't think we can just say, okay, you don't need to pass the rest of the like TCKs, and then you can still claim the full compatible certification implementation. I think it's okay if we say, okay, yeah, this is the current difficulties and etc. Let's just make it clear this is only MicroProfile level compatible certification. If you have yeah.
Well, I think that it is reasonable. Sorry, David, you want to say something?
Well, I was gonna say, I think I heard Emily getting to a place that we could all agree. So Emily, I think you were saying that let's just make it clear that the certification is for MicroProfile only.
Yes.
And then we will, over time, evolve all of our different specifications and TCKs across all the different communities so it's easier and more honest to be able to have both the Jakarta logo and the MicroProfile certified logo on your product, even for Quarkus.
Yeah, I think I'm okay. Like if we mark as a MicroProfile level, yeah, compare me.
Only.
Yeah, only.
Yeah.
And also we can have a small footprint, a small footnote to explain the.
Yeah, so I was going to say that I think there is reasonable the assumption where you'll say that whatever implementation is MicroProfile compliant, that has to pass the MicroProfile TCKs, which are those 8. And then if you pass the Jakarta one, you can put the Jakarta one, which is already defined as Jakarta specification. And I think this is okay for now. And we can evolve this, especially remembering that there are discussions of having like a Jakarta core profile that MicroProfile may start to use, or might be thinking to be used on MicroProfile. And then it will become much more clear on what MicroProfile has to pass on the Jakarta side, if that profile ends up being decided. And that can be, yeah.
No, it just seems to me that what you are saying is that we could actually create an implementation that would pass and have a stamp that it's MicroProfile compliant without implementing a single API from CDI.
You wouldn't actually be able to
No.
pass a test because they leverage all this stuff a lot. But theoretically, if theoretically what you say is true, in practice, none of the MicroProfile tests would pass.
Maybe you've discussed this earlier, but isn't there a possibility to take the CDI 2.0 TCK, download it, and configure the test-ng test to exclude all the tests that you don't see relevant for MicroProfile? Yeah. Run that test suite and call that. This is not CDI compliant. You can never claim that, but you pass the necessary CDI tests for MicroProfile.
Right.
That is possible. I've mentioned that a few times.
Yes. Yeah, I mean, effectively, that's what the Java SE set of tests is. It's a subset of the test that's controlled by a TCK runner.
I mean, if we're going to go that far, how hard would it be to get the CDI team to issue that as a profile? It seems perfectly reasonable to me. I'm sorry, I'm speaking for the CDI team. I don't know.
It's actually already in process because there's a PR to break the existing TCK into 2 separate TCKs, one that has no dependency on a container and the other that has basically the API dependencies that go into the web profile. So it'd just be, I think the only overlap there is the expression language. Those tests could still be in SE set of tests that currently are, or the subset of tests that are not in the web profile. I'd have to take a look at that. But I mean, that's something we've been wanting to do more to align with the CDI Lite effort, but it should be doable.
I actually think that this is very important even for MicroProfile itself, because right now, because we don't have this list of, let's say, mandatory features, what if you create a TCK test that's absolutely fine from CDI point of view, but will not run on one of the implementations, and then like who declares whether the test is right or the implementation is right if we don't have a deterministic list of features that need to be supported.
And my concern is that it might be the ideal situation that we fit the CDI TCK to the MicroProfile requirements, but what about timing? How much time are we going to spend to implement in? Okay, it's only configuration, but I assume it will not be done in a few hours. So are we going to spend weeks and months on this, or?
Yeah, that's my pragmatic perspective as well, is that yes, this is all great to do, but it's all things that are not done now, and not likely to be done in the next month. So
yeah,
we have a kind of we kind of have to take either a pragmatic perspective if we to get our certification program done today. We have to take a pragmatic perspective that, you know, we want to make changes on whoever it needs to make changes, or we want to create that list of tests so that we can have our own list of tests on the MicroProfile side of the fence. We can say we want these things, but in order for us to get a MicroProfile, was it 4.1 out with a compatible implementation and a compatible implementation logo and a program and meet our plan goals, we need to start working on that now, and we need to do it with the assumption that we're not going to make this a roadblock, right?
Agreed.
We'll get there,
Yeah.
but we can't make it a roadblock. If we make it a roadblock, then we're saying we're going to favor doing this work instead of, and I do mean instead of, all of the competitive certification logo, certification program, and MicroProfile 4.1. In which case, that shoves it out quite a distance.
It's the same people.
And what's that?
Is it the same people doing all that work? I mean, it's
In-
almost sounds like
in
you're suggesting
practice.
these cannot be done in parallel with their sequential activities.
In practice, just because it is largely the same people. In practice, it works.
David, just let me clarify what you were saying. Basically, the idea is that we need these certification requirements to be on fast, right? It means that for version 4.1, let's say, we will just have requirements only MicroProfile related. We will drop off all Jakarta TCK requirements. But in future, let's say for MicroProfile 5, we will do some work on Jakarta side to make TCKs for the specs included in MicroProfile compatible with the MicroProfile model, and we will add them to MP5 certification. Is this what you're saying?
More or less, though, I would say I do subscribe to the perspective that on the MicroProfile side of the fence, we could come up with our list of tests that say this matches, you know, our list of CDI TCK tests that are quote included in MicroProfile, right? I do like the idea that on the CDI side of the fence, we're making adjustments for MicroProfile, but you know, there may be other communities who want to use portions of our specifications, and I would rather that they do what Thomas was suggesting, and, you know, come up with a list. You know, they don't necessarily have to wait. Anyway, either side of the fence, we're going to be either making a list of tests on the MicroProfile side of the fence that say these are the CDI tests that have to be passed to be considered compliant with what MicroProfile includes, or on the CDI side of the fence, there is a list of tests being created. Either way, but yes.
Actually, I don't think so, because if MicroProfile 5 is going to align with Jakarta 9, then you cannot include any more changes on Jakarta side anymore.
So is that
that's not true. We can make that they can create a TC, you know, a new TCK for the Jakarta, you know, the Java SE8 version of CDI. You know, pre-Jakartified. That's possible. You know, and if we're going to make an exclude list, I don't know why we can't. I mean, it seems like we have the, you know, the commitment from the CDI team. I don't know why they could at least ask them to bless it. Then I think it's cleaner.
I think again we need to agree on which tests need to be included, which tests are not. So again, we'll run into another long discussion and etc. The way forward is at the moment the CDI team is working on the CDI Lite. So it's when that in the Jakarta E10, and then we will rebase against the CDI Lite. So the work we are going to do, propose to do, is irrelevant anymore. So it's not used anymore. So that's kind of with the time and effort, and then eventually we move the target again. So I think in terms of time and effort, if for now we just saying, okay, we just come up with a MicroProfile level compatible certification implementation. And then when we come to Jakarta E10, and we will have like the minimum size, the minimum portion we need from Jakarta, and then there won't be any questions and etc.
Are there problems with the other TCKs, or is it just CDI?
Well, I would have a concern that there is a problem with JAX-RS because there are assumptions about the nature of the web container, which technically isn't even really part of that spec, right? So, I mean, it's certainly valid that a MicroProfile implementation doesn't have a web container. And in fact, there have been versions that don't.
So we should be working with them too to get that, to get a profile.
Yeah,
to work.
I mean, to me, this was all part of the core profile because the problem, you can't, right now, the only way you can co-brand a runtime with both Jakarta and MicroProfile is you have to have at least a web profile because the branding only comes in at the profile levels. There is no branding certification mark, at the individual specifications.
Scott, that's definitely true for the profiles, but the intent of the separated TCKs is to give is to define a box that says, well, if you're going to use this technology, here's what makes that technology compatible. So
right,
the core profile would build on smaller profiles from each of the component specs. So I think what we're doing here is coming up with some urgency about why we need those subset or more subset profiles for MicroProfile.
Right, but what I don't know, maybe we're mis-talking. What I'm saying is I can't. So for example, if I have, exclude lists of all these 4 TCKs and Quarkus passes those, I can't put the Jakarta compatible logo on it because that's not the level, that's not how branding works in Jakarta.
Right, but that shouldn't be the objective for the component spec TCKs.
Correct.
That should be the objective for core, the proposed core for web profile for the platform. Yes.
Right. That's my point. That is the point of the profile.
Exactly. And I'm suggesting that we're discussing something that's smaller than those profiles. Or at least I'm thinking of it that way. Maybe you're not.
So as a part of that exercise, maybe is for like doing the TCKs, like JAX-RS could divide the TCK into different buckets. Like some bucket is kind of some buckets so we can declare that MicroProfile essential. Some bucket maybe is not.
Yeah, we should be working with those. Just like we were talking, we've been bashing around on CDI. We should be talking with this JAX-RS RESTful Web Services spec group to create a profile that works, so that it can meet the requirements of MicroProfile. Absolutely.
Yeah,
so that's two off. What about the JSON specs? So those are okay.
Both one, I believe that are okay. They're like very small.
Are fine.
And they're mostly self-contained.
Yeah. So it doesn't require actually the whole platform because there are almost very something, but there are no. Let's say that only a small number of dependencies to other specs. And I don't think that actually we do have interoperability tests. So JSONs should be fine.
Okay, that's good. So I think for CDI currently is kind of being worked. I think is the other thing that maybe JAX-RS need to log an issue and then to get it sorted in the Jakarta E10. However, back to this issue again for the we have time check is John's style. So we have 24 minutes. So it's for this one, are we okay? For now, we instead of saying bluntly saying compatible implementations, we just say MicroProfile level compatible implementations. In this way, we are not directed just just announce ourselves. It's the kind of we compatible with everything. This is only we say, okay, you passed all the MicroProfile component TCK specification TCKs.
I think yes, and it's I guess it's also what people will expect. For instance, if you have an application which is running on a MicroProfile and Jakarta one, and it's working fine, then you might encounter issues if you go to an implementation which has only MicroProfile, because probably you are using things which are not available, not certified. The other way around, that will not be a problem, because every MicroProfile thing is also available that in that other runtime which has MicroProfile and Jakarta. So from the point of interoperability, I guess that's that is perfectly fine with the expectations of the users.
Yeah, I think is we will add some the note footer. I mean, at the end towards the end of this like a page, just like spell this out. Also, is point out like some runtime they certify against the Jakarta EE8, and then like among those, so it's portable. And if you some runtime may not support Jakarta EE8, so there's some APIs directly from that for Jakarta EE specifications may not work.
Okay, so in conclusion, for the time being, what MicroProfile compatible means is you have to pass the 8 MicroProfile TCKs, and if you want to comply with the other ones, you'll just say that you're Jakarta web profile compliant or full compliant, doesn't really matter. And on parallel, we're working on Jakarta with the Jakarta specs or the relevant specs to make them more preparer friendly, so we can pass them in a proper way in a future MicroProfile version. Is that the proposal?
Yeah, I think so. What other people have different thought?
Yeah, that's what I was hearing as well.
Same here.
Okay, cool.
Okay, are we in favor with this approach?
Yeah, so I am in favor. I'm not gonna try to derail. But one question that I had when I know, okay, I'm probably stepping ahead here, but as we roll this out, we probably need to communicate that, you know, I think what Emily was saying earlier is that eventually we do want to reintroduce the requirements to support, you know, the Jakarta EE features, you know, as far as being part of the testing. But until these items are cleared up with CDI and JAX-RS, you know, we can't do it, right?
Yes, so that's what I'm saying, that in parallel, we will be working with the Jakarta specs that are relevant, so we can do this work and introduce these requirements in a future MicroProfile version. Might be 5, 6, we don't know, right? But
right. I'm just pointing out that we need to make that part of our messaging.
We can certainly put it in the fine print of what we say, what compatibility is.
If it was up to me, I don't think this document should say anything about Jakarta EE certification. That doesn't belong here at all, right? The products can certainly seek those badges if they want them, but we're focusing on MicroProfile.
Yeah, because I wouldn't want to require a Jakarta certification to have MicroProfile certification, because I certainly see that There are going to be runtimes that will never want to pass that. They will only be concerned with the TCKs of the MicroProfile platform.
Exactly, which is why I suggest we just don't say anything about it.
Okay, but then that gets back to the earlier comment about do we need to redefine what makes up MicroProfile? Because as you know, someone pointed out, way back, MicroProfile 1.0 contained all of these. And so we've been building on it. So don't we need to address that somehow more officially?
Well,
But I think you have this statement already. Today, the only way to address that is you either have a web profile or higher. That's your statement. If you on the MicroProfile side have decided not to go to that level, then by definition, you have no compatibility with respect to those TCKs.
So I'll give some perspective. On the EE side of the fence, we've historically had a couple dependencies on APIs and specifications outside of EE, right? We had a dependency on like the OMG group's definitions of CSIV2 Corba and various other things. We never required people to license and run those TCKs. We did provide our own tests for them, however. And so, yes, we have dependencies on the Jakarta side of the fence, but I don't see it as unprecedented that we aren't saying you must go past those TCKs at this particular moment in time.
It's a bit like the same with Java. We are depending on Java, but we are not saying that you need to run all the Java TCK tests to be MicroProfile compliant.
Right. It's simply put, it's okay for us to leverage other technologies without having to force people to go do things from the MicroProfile perspective. Sure, so people should make sure they're running on a Java certified TCK, but we don't require them to show us proof of that. Now, that said, we want that because it's reasonable and we can get it within we think we can get there, but I don't see it as like a hard rule that anything we reference has to make certification requirements for us.
Let me just clarify. I'm not suggesting that we don't say anything about component specification TCKs. I'm just saying a profile, Jakarta EE profile, that doesn't need to be called out here, right? So the component specs, I think I haven't changed my position. I think those should pass a TCK, or you should be using an implementation that claims to pass the TCK. That's what we have. I think that's the wink thing that we've been bashing about here that is causing problems, right? So, and I agree that problem needs to be fixed, right? But I just don't think we need, so the profiles to me is a different problem, right? And that shouldn't be addressed here. The component specs, the compatibility with the component specs, if people want to leverage on the names that those specs use to define themselves, then there should be a compatibility element in there somewhere.
The only reason to mention the Jakarta EE specs is because MicroProfile platform release include these Jakarta EE specs, like these 4 Jakarta EE APIs. So they will, like, for example, CDI will have the conversation scoped. Because at the moment when we do the certification is MicroProfile level only. So even though that API available to customer and that API may not work. So that's why we need to just still call it out. That's the main reason we just call it out. However, we mandate the MicroProfile level compatible implementations.
I mean, let's call out the thing that's causing trouble, right? Portable extensions have not been removed by MicroProfile specification. Okay, it's very clear. It's not removed from the spec. So as I understand, whatever we are saying here, for portability reasons, the things that were not call out to be removed should be in. So a compatible implementation should support portable extensions. If this group is okay with an implementation that does not support portable extension, then it's a problem. Because we are basically saying that our specification is not a specification, but it's a set of guidelines. And as long as we are somehow within those guidelines, you are okay. And I don't think that is right.
So that's why we didn't say you like the whole blindly we say compatible implementations. So we just say MicroProfile level compatible implementations, right? So it's the kind of the, this is the kind of the, whether you pass the portable extensions or not, that's kind of not being addressed in MicroProfile. So
But
basically
anyway,
it's
the reason why you have specifications is so people can write portable applications, even though there is a restricted portability to that. But if you start saying that it doesn't really matter which parts of those specs we implement, then this whole idea of portability is not there, because suddenly half of your
So let me
another implementation.
So so Thomas, let me ask you a very clear question. So I'm guessing that you're referring to Quarkus, right?
Well, obviously that's the only one as far as
okay.
I know that does not.
Okay, awesome. Okay, wonderful. You might just say that it's Quarkus. You don't have to right. I mean, just say it, right? No. If Quarkus doesn't implement portable extensions, that's an issue with Quarkus, and that's an issue if Quarkus will pass the CDI TCK as is or not. But your example where you're saying, yes, Quarkus doesn't implement portable extensions, but doesn't implement conversation scope either, which is not mandated by the MicroProfile spec. And this goes to the same conversation, which it doesn't matter what Quarkus implements or not. There is no CDI TCK at the moment that complies with whatever MicroProfile specification says, just for CDI. Because it didn't remove CDI extensions, but it removed other stuff, right? So and that comes with that comes into my first line of argument, which I'm saying right now, if you want to take like a pure approach, no one is passing the CDI specification for MicroProfile.
So well, anyway, I do want to jump in and say that I think it's okay for us. So I agree with Thomas that if we have an unclear definition of what our subset of CDI is, then we should probably firm that up. So I think Thomas fundamentally says something correct, which is if our definition of what we need out of CDI is fuzzy, then it should be firmed up. I also think that, yes, I like the conversations when they say we're going to go fix this on the CDI side of the fence. They always come back to their own that statement. I think it's great. I don't think we need that. I think it is reasonable for us to go, here's our definition of another technology, and here's our list of tests that have to be passed. I think that's a fine solution too. Anyway, the immediate term, I would guess I'd ask the question, do we need to make some statement somewhere that's more clear about what features of CDI are expected to work? Because that's probably something we could do
Yeah,
for
I was
the
under
next
the
release.
impression that there is a list of things that do not need to be part of the implementation. But as you say, this needs to be absolutely clear. So if somebody says that they are CDI MicroProfile compliant, people know what that means. And I don't think that's true right now. So I definitely think that this should be cleared up and it should be made absolutely, strict. And there should be some way how to test it. And if that is going to be a subset of TCKs or new tests or whatever other way, that's the correct way to do it, right? I thought that that's how specifications work.
I think we can get the list of tests on any future version, because that might take some time. But in terms of the functionality of CDI that it's expected to work, I think that should be clear. I don't know, Thomas, if you want to take a look at the specifications now, and if you see anything that's off, maybe you want to raise it. Is that something you'd be willing to do? Well, we could ask the other people to do it, but I don't think people are going to. Anyway, I don't know that people will police themselves necessarily as well.
And
Right.
if we
Just
can put a list together that somehow marks the features that make sense in CDI, and then decide like what is needed and what is not, then we can put that together, I guess.
so just a time check. We have 8 minutes. I think this again comes back. I think yeah, it's a good idea to list all the features. However, I think Rudy has a point. I mean, we can't really just drag this along, and then we can't do anything else. Like when do we want to do the release? I feel we're completely stalled. Why can't we aim smaller and then gradually making progress? At the moment, we just invent a new term. We are not just saying complete compatible implementation. We just come up with a kind of MicroProfile level compatible implementation, and then we add a footer to say actually some may not work. Some if you use some APIs from Jakarta EE, it may not work. I think that's good enough for now, for the time being, and we can get the 4.0 auto door or 4.1 auto door, and where we in parallel trying to address the problem. I don't think we should store it, keep it, just stop it, and then just beat around the bush.
Let me try to be more pragmatic. I was imagining like a paragraph, like basically saying like, okay, here's CDI, portable extensions may not, are optional from the perspective of MicroProfile, and any other things that are very obvious that we don't have to spend a lot of time to investigate. People are calling out specific obvious things that aren't going to work. Roberto has mentioned conversation scope, EJB. So if we could just maybe get a paragraph and list these things that say from a MicroProfile perspective, they're optional, then people could have a regular developer, human person could have a very good way, at least a brief way. And it may not be comprehensive, but it's at least better than no statement. If we have no statement, I don't know if we have any statements at all in respect, do we?
So you are suggesting we can go ahead with the proposal to do the MicroProfile level compatible implementation, however, add a footer to to stack something to warn the customers and some
maybe
CDI.
not like a footer, but maybe like
Right.
a section in the MicroProfile umbrella spec that just has a clearer definition.
Yeah.
A paragraph,
yeah.
like two, like doesn't
Yeah.
like half a page. I'm thinking not big, just like really brief.
Okay. Yeah, I agree with that. I think I'm okay with that. With this, at least we can make a progress. So, are there any objections? Okay, I think we
Sorry,
are.
so let me repeat what I asked like a while ago, if this is the understanding of everyone. So we will only require to pass the ATCKs for now. We do now the clarifications on the spec on the CDI side. We might want to have a look on the JAX-RS side as well, and we made clarification on the JAX-RS side and JSON-B, but probably that's not required, but at least do whatever clarification are required for the spec at the platform level. And we work in parallel with Jakarta specifications to improve this for further or future MicroProfile versions, to finally include and have like a profile or a TCK that we can say that that you can pass. Is that
Yeah.
okay? Or is that the everyone's
That sounds right.
Yeah.
understanding?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yes.
Thomas, are you okay with that?
I think so. I'm not sure I'm okay with removing portable extensions as from the
We
requirements.
never, no one said remove portable extensions.
Well, if that's going to be up, okay, we should write down what is is true, regardless of whether or not we like it, right? We should write down what is true. You know, just
so let me take again the elephant of the room. So the reason about this is discussion about Quarkus. I mean, right now Quarkus doesn't say that it's microprofile compliant. We stopped saying that because because of all this definition that was not clear. So
I think it's not positive, by the way. I think we should be having Quarkus say it is microprofile compliant, because I do hear
yes,
people,
but
I do hear
have that discussion on the mailing list.
Yeah. That's why
Sorry?
that's why I want to make sure that we can make a definition for microprofile that Quarkus can fit in, because people do say things like, you know, they pit microprofile against Quarkus, like versus, and they should stop doing that, right? And
yeah,
it's in our best interest that they don't do that. Right. So we need to be making it clear that that Quarkus is one of our ilk, and it is something to celebrate, right? In which case, let's make a definition of microprofile that can fit Quarkus. And if we have to say that something like extensions are optional, I'm totally okay with it, because I'd rather that happen than people view Quarkus as on the outside and opposing microprofile.
Well, I mean, we as Quarkus never tried to oppose a microprofile. That's why the reason that we implement.
I don't think you are. It's just the way people perceive it.
Okay, sure. My only concern, and again, I'm going to be very direct here, is there might be some people that may not agree with making a specific statement just to make Quarkus be microprofile compliant.
Yeah, but again, this comes back to my other comment, is I think there's always going to be two levels of compatibility. I mean, just look at what if you want to have a serverless offering on AWS that can actually utilize all of the annotations in the microprofile platform. There's no way that's going to pass the underlying Jakarta TCKs without unreasonable effort. So the issue is, to what extent do you want to propagate the microprofile brand without having to pull along Jakarta? I mean, it's a question of if you're just leveraging well-known Java enterprise developer annotations, or you're trying to promote that platform as well.
Yeah, David, I want to answer to David. I don't agree with what you said. So from my opinion, stronger the compatibility requirements, better portability. If we have our compatibility requirements loose, allowing many implementations, not portable between each other, but compatible with microprofile, this is a way to hell. This is totally wrong. But on the other hand, for now, I don't see the other solution which we can quickly implement and rectify before 4.1 microprofile release, as just forget temporary about Jakarta specifications. But we will definitely need to come back to this for in version 5 and define nice, strict compatibility rules, and make microprofile implementations portable on the source code level.
I think we're saying the same thing, right?
Yeah.
So,
by the way, I got to job right now.
The statement is for us. Let's write down what is portable at this moment in time, and we can raise that bar over time.
I don't think that's possible to raise the bar over time. Because once you set the bar,
You can raise bars on portability. You can add requirements. That's absolutely what specs do.
And when we have those optimized, let's call it optimized TCK tests for EE10 or even that CDR Lite, then that will help, of course.
By the way, I got a job. I made Roberto the host. I need to attend a customer call. Okay, bye.
Bye.
Well, I think we're mostly done anyway for today. It's already 8 here at least, or let's past the hour.
All right, should we wrap?
Yes, yeah. So I propose. I'm not sure if Emily added that on the Google Drive document, but if not, I'll add it. I'll propose at least that we come up with the specification like David was suggesting on what features or what part of the spec are removed from both CDI or JAX-RS to include on the platform level, and then we go from there.
Call it optional, not removed.
Yeah, optional. Okay. So I think we're pretty much done here today. So thank you for joining. I'll talk with Emily to see how we'll start like a mailing list or whatever to start this effort, and then we'll see where that goes. So thank you for joining, everyone, and see you next week.
Okay, thanks. Bye-bye.
Thanks.
Thanks.
Thanks, everybody.
Bye.